Hello, I want to do a podcast today talking about what's going on over at the Snake Island and the failed attack by Ukraine to recapture the island. This was supposed to be a big PR stunt done on the eve of the 9 May big victory celebration by the Russians. And it was supposed to snub the Russians with a huge victory on recapturing a tiny, fairly insignificant island that the Russians had captured early on in the war, which again goes back to another PR stunt that the Ukrainians pulled in the very beginning of the war. And people probably heard about the Ukrainians who supposedly were real defiant of the Russians, and they told them to F off and all this stuff, and it all was a lie. They actually were captured. So again, they're going back to the old playbook. Really, it's more of the CIA MI6 playbook more than probably actually Ukrainians. And so which leads me to the one of the underlying drivers of the Ukraine military is to try to garner public support for the war, rather than really concentrating on the efforts to put up a classic military defense. And this seems to be leading to a lot of catastrophic failures in the Ukrainian armed force defense. And I'll get into that more in another podcast. So what happened on the Snake Island? It was supposed to be a combined amphibious and air assault on the eve of the 9th of May. And the attack was supported by approximately 30 UAVs, like drones, and at least 4 or probably more Ukrainian fighter bombers, like Su-24s and the equivalent, and attack helicopters, and at least 3 of those. So altogether, in the attack, there was at least 14 aircraft, and there was dozens of Ukrainian troops. Now here's where it gets real sticky, and it highlights one of the other big issues of what's going on and driving the policies of the Ukraine military. And that was that within this attack, which was actually conceived, developed by NATO, led by a lieutenant colonel in the U.S. Marine Corps and a major in the British, supposedly, commandos. Those were the leaders of this Ukrainian force that was supposed to retake Snake Island in a big PR stunt, as a big victory, celebration for Ukraine and defeat for the Russians on their big 9 May victory celebration. So the timing was significant. This is what it was all designed to do: snub the Russians on their big day. So this attack was thrown together, like I said, by NATO and these 2 commanders who subsequently died on the island, and they actually went in the first wave on the attack helicopters, and they were rather quickly destroyed, as well as one of the initial amphibious assault vehicles that was destroyed. So the remaining amphibious landing craft decided that after seeing, their helicopters get destroyed and the initial landing craft get destroyed, they decided to turn around and head back. And the problem for Zelensky, who, of course, he's a puppet, and he went along with this big plan after they presented it to him, because again, he's concerned about PR and not actual military victories that are substantial. The Ukrainians lost significant forces of their very dwindling helicopter supply and their very dwindling air force. So what they mustered for this attack was like pretty much all they had. And they lost like 30 UAVs. Now these were most of them were the Turkish drones that were supposedly these Bakhtar drones. These are supposedly like the amazing drones, with these things that are getting shot down like right and left. In fact, the Turkish company, even was trying to tell Ukraine that this isn't working anymore. This is not going well. But Ukraine kept on ordering more of these from Turkey. So anyway, the Ukraine military leaders were against this plan, of course, because their precious resources are being thrown into this PR gamble, and really no military outcome that would really be some kind of a practical victory, just for the cameras, as always. And so they were opposed to this. But NATO, of course, is really running everything over there, mostly the United States and Britain, UK. They're the ones behind the scenes here running all this, as well as all the propaganda. Mostly British are in charge of that. Everything that comes out of Ukraine goes to there's like a Ministry of Propaganda in the UK, and they're working overtime, pumping out fake stories all day, every day. So everything you get from Ukraine is all PR stunts and fakeness. They even use actors, dressed up as soldiers and so on. And there's so much videos of this crap out there. And so I think even watching mainstream media, anything to do with Ukraine, is just going to be lies. So anyway, back to the Snake Island. So it ended up being a huge catastrophic failure, and the loss of jet fighters, their precious few helicopters, and lots of the drones, dozens of that there's some of the best Ukrainian troops that they had, like Marines and commandos that were used in this attack. These are like some real hardcore veterans that they had lost. And there's some footage, you could see of one of the strikes on the helicopter that completely annihilated not only the helicopter with a direct hit, but like a couple football fields radius. It just, all the soldiers that had departed from the helicopter all died instantly. I mean, it's a stunning video, and it looks like it's a Russian drone that's filming it. So after the attack, like I said, the Ukrainians, commandos that survived, they hastily retreated after they lost their helicopters and their fighter support. It sounds kind of like a Bay of Pigs. They hastily tried to get out of there, and they made it back. The few that did made it back, and so this irated NATO, because they were like, how could you leave our precious commanders, there on Snake Island, and you got to get them back. You got to get them back. They're either the bodies or they're captured or whatever. So Ukraine kept on sending more like aircraft over there to see what's going on. They sent UAVs, and they all got shot down. And so it ended up being a cascading effect of more and more losses as the Ukrainians are trying to please their NATO masters on trying to figure out what happened and where are these these commanders of the United States and the UK that led this attack, and so they were left behind on the island. More than likely they died. When you see the footage, and I'll try to include that here in the podcast, and I do believe this footage is circulating around, so I should be able to upload that. And you can see just how devastating this counterattack by the Russians was, how pinpoint. It's just incredible how anyone could have survived that, to think that their bodies are probably even able to be retrieved is ridiculous. So this big failure, just highlights the whole motives behind NATO and Ukraine in their continued defense of their misappropriation of their military forces, where these few men that they lost, these are probably the best, and these few aircraft and helicopters and 30 UAVs is stunning, and these could have been used to defend like some of their more precious resources that are under like imminent threat by the Russians in their invasion. So this was a catastrophic decision, and just shows the meddling of NATO, and it demonstrates who's really controlling what's happening in Ukraine. And even overriding the Ukrainian military commanders. So if that isn't a stark wake up to see who's really running things over there, and it's very sad, and they're basically just using these Ukrainian troops as cannon fodder. And it sounds like a cliche, and it's been said many times, but this is like one of the greatest examples of cannon fodder that you're going to find out there. And when I go into my next video of the next podcast of what's happening on the front lines, it's nothing what you're hearing in the mainstream news. Now, keep in mind that I'm the information that I'm using is intel that you're not getting from your mainstream sources, and I can't even mention it because it would cause the podcast to be censored. So it's out there, but it's hard to find, and when you find it, you're going to find out that what's going on over there is completely opposite to everything you're being told. So anyway, I just thought I'd give you a summary of what really happened on Snake Island and the catastrophic defeat of Ukraine.